You can imagine putting the beehives underneath, maybe on this back side, or if you elevate it, you can think of what happens if you put these panels 5 feet higher in the air. So then you could actually access the front of it, right? So you can think about like a structure like this of how one could elevate it or keep it low, whatever your agricultural needs are for using the shade behind it. So thinking about what we have here, notice the wires underneath the panels. When you have a larger system, there's a lot more wires. And oftentimes, you can see how there's a little tiny loops, and sometimes those loops will go about 2 to 3 feet lower. And that can cause, yeah, you can see some wires like over here where it comes out of the ground. That's where you can start having issues with animals interacting with it or people accidentally having issues with it. The more you can keep those wires up against the infrastructure, that makes it tight wire management. That keeps it safer. The more you can put it in conduit, or in my solar array we have wire mesh on the backside, so there's no way for people to access those wires. It makes it safer. Then my worries about people touching those wires is gone. You also see the edges of those panels. That's a sharp spot. In areas where we have heavy traffic of people walking through it, I put rubber bumpers on it. So in case somebody hits it, instead of cutting themselves on the edge, they hit a bumper.
So these are all live now? No.
I can see red lights blinking on them.
Yeah,
So
I saw that too.
if there are solar panels facing the sun, then they are going to generate electricity. It's just a question of whether that electricity goes anywhere or if it's grounded. So they are always going to be producing. Just maybe they're not connected to anything, so it's not useful.
Here. This is where everything is supposed to go. And then to produce electricity for that little house. That was the original plan.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where the batteries would be? Or the battery storage?
I think they stole the batteries.
Oh God.
Those are expensive, so yeah, that makes sense. Now also, if you take a look at these panels, you can see that they're horizontal and they're facing going downwards. Take a look from the highest point to the lowest point of where the panels are. There are 1, 2, 3 breaks in the panel. So four panels with three tiny gaps between each panel, or from one panel to the next is a gap. That means if you have rain coming down, it's not, what is that, maybe like 12 feet of panels along those lines. It's not 12 feet of water that's coming to the end. It's actually 3 feet that then gets dropped off at that small gap, and then another 3 feet that gets dropped off, and another 3 feet that gets dropped off. So what we find at other solar arrays is everywhere where there's a break in between the two panels, just that gap of space, there's a drip edge, and that drip edge causes growth. So you'll notice, especially in Colorado, and I can't quite tell here, but there would be just lines of vegetation underneath the panels wherever there was that drip edge. The very front of it.
Really green, a lot more vegetation there.
And the shade, the grass in the shade looks greener than the grass outside this in the full sun.
Yeah.
Simply because the grass is going to be less stressed.
Well, that's what he was saying, that, you know, if you had animals, you could.
Even if you had vegetation, vegetables growing, you could lift up the really high.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like on the outside here. Oh, inside. So the space from the back edge of this panel outwards, it looks like maybe 3 feet of shade. That area is going to be, in my perspective, in Colorado and a number of places, that space is going to be valuable for growing vegetables, whereas the space directly underneath the panels, you can see how, I mean, that's just weedy, right? That means that area is vastly more dedicated shade, whereas out here, it at least gets some rainfall, whereas underneath the panels, there's going to be more of that water getting moved away from that space.
So look at the vegetation.
Yeah.
We're green there.
Yeah, it's very green.
So that means they are getting water.
Where the grass is, or where the weeds are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't notice any other vegetation other than weeds. So
I
we,
think maybe it was cleared before.
it could be.
No, nobody did anything for this.
But it looks like the land was cleared. You see, it
Are
was
these standard size